You are quite literally burning money every time you turn the ignition key, and the big oil companies are laughing all the way to the bank while you do it. The average driver drops roughly $2,500 a year on fuel alone, just to get from point A to point B. But what if I told you that a massive chunk of that cash is just vanishing into thin air, and you are the one unconsciously pulling the disappearing act? We are going to talk about the real nitty-gritty daily habits and hidden mechanical issues that drain your tank and absolutely destroy your wallet. I am talking about things that go way beyond the standard, tired advice your grandfather gave you about keeping the car clean. If you actually apply what we are about to discuss, you are going to see a serious drop in your monthly expenses, and you will probably save your engine from a catastrophic failure down the road. Let us start by looking right at the roof of your vehicle, specifically at something you see on almost every crossover and SUV on the road today. I am talking about the dreaded empty roof rack. It looks adventurous, sure. It tells the world you might go mountain biking or kayaking at a moment's notice. But aerodynamics are a cruel, unforgiving mistress. Putting a roof rack on your car is like trying to run a full marathon while holding an open parachute behind your back. Automotive engineers spend thousands of hours and millions of dollars in wind tunnels trying to make your car slice through the air as smoothly as possible, specifically to save you gas. Then you go and bolt a square metal cage to the top of it. Even a completely empty rack can tank your fuel economy by a massive margin because it disrupts the airflow, creating turbulent drag that acts like a giant invisible hand pulling your car backwards. If you leave an empty cargo box or a set of heavy crossbars up there, you are looking at a brutal efficiency hit, especially when you are cruising at highway speeds. Take the rack off. It takes maybe 10 minutes with a basic wrench, and it will immediately put money right back into your checking account. Keep your gear in the trunk when you can, not strapped to the roof catching the wind. Speaking of your trunk, let us have a serious, honest intervention right now about what you are actually carrying around in there. Extra weight is the absolute mortal enemy of automotive efficiency. Every single time you press the accelerator pedal, your engine has to generate enough force to move the mass of the car, plus whatever heavy junk you have loaded into it. I know guys who drive around year-round with 2 full heavy-duty tool chests, a massive steel floor jack, and winter survival gear in the middle of a sweltering July. It is complete madness. Every 100 pounds of dead weight you lug around reduces your fuel mileage significantly. It might sound like a small percentage on paper, but over a year of daily commuting, that is real, tangible money you are leaving on the table. Treat your trunk like prime real estate. If you do not absolutely need a specific item for your current journey, evict it immediately. Take the heavy golf clubs out. Unload the bags of potting soil you bought 3 weeks ago. Not only will your engine thank you by sipping less fuel, but your suspension components, like your shocks and struts, will last significantly longer because they are not constantly compressed under a heavy, unnecessary load. Now, let us talk about how your car actually rolls down that road. Because wheel alignment is a silent killer of fuel economy that almost nobody thinks about until their tires are completely destroyed. Have you ever tried walking in a straight line with one of your feet pointed completely sideways? It takes a ton of extra energy and effort, right? That is exactly what your car is doing when your wheel alignment is out of whack. A bad toe angle means your tires are basically being dragged sideways down the highway, fighting the direction of travel. Your engine has to work significantly harder to overcome that extra scrub and friction, and that extra mechanical effort requires more combustion, which means more fuel. Not to mention, you are literally grinding the expensive rubber tread off a perfectly good set of tires. You might think you are saving money by skipping that annual alignment check at the shop, but when you find yourself buying a fresh set of rubber prematurely and filling up your tank twice as often because of the drag, that math simply does not add up. Keep your wheels pointed straight, and your car will glide down the road with far less effort. While we are discussing the wheels, we absolutely have to address your tire pressure, because the way most people handle this is fundamentally flawed. Most of you rely entirely on that little yellow horseshoe-shaped tire pressure monitoring light on the dashboard to tell you when it is time to add air. That is a massive financial mistake. That computerized system usually only triggers a warning on the dash when a tire is severely underinflated, sometimes after it has already lost a massive chunk of its optimal pressure. Long before that warning light ever comes on, you are suffering from severely increased rolling resistance. Think about riding a bicycle with soft, flat tires. Your legs burn because you have to push the pedals twice as hard just to maintain a slow pace. Your car's engine feels the exact same strain. Check your tire pressure manually once a month using a proper, high-quality pressure gauge. Keep them inflated to the specific cold specification printed on the sticker inside the driver's door jamb, not the maximum pressure stamped on the rubber tire sidewall. Some people think overinflating the tires will give them a magical bump in fuel economy, and while it might give a tiny fraction of an improvement, it will completely ruin the center tread of a set of $800 tires and drastically reduce your braking grip in an emergency. Stick to the manufacturer's specification for the best balance of safety and fuel savings. Let us shift gears and crack open the hood to talk about the actual fire-making process happening inside your motor. The spark plug is the unsung, hard-working hero of your engine bay, and it directly controls how efficiently you use your gas. If you are ignoring your spark plug replacement intervals because the car still technically starts, you are basically throwing liquid fuel right out the tailpipe. When a spark plug gets old, the gap widens, and it gets covered in carbon fouling, meaning the electrical spark gets incredibly weak. A weak spark means incomplete combustion. You are squirting highly refined, expensive gasoline into the cylinder, and instead of burning all of it to create downward power on the piston, you are just blowing unburned fuel past the exhaust valves and out into the street. You might eventually feel this as a sluggish throttle response or a rough, vibrating idle. But long before you feel anything in the driver's seat, your fuel gauge is going to drop faster than you can blink. Fresh spark plugs and healthy ignition coils are relatively cheap. You can easily install them yourself in your driveway with a basic socket set, and they pay for themselves in restored fuel efficiency almost immediately. While we are talking about unburned fuel, let us look at the absolute cheapest, simplest fix on this entire list. I am talking about your gas cap. You probably never even look at it, except to frantically screw it back on after a fill-up at the station. But a loose, cross-threaded, or cracked gas cap allows highly volatile fuel vapors to simply evaporate out of your tank and into the atmosphere. You can lose dozens of gallons of raw fuel over the course of a single year just from silent evaporation. Plus, modern vehicles have an incredibly sensitive evaporative emission control system, usually called the EVAP system. If that computerized system detects a vapor leak because your cap is bad, it will throw a check engine light right in your face. Do not panic and let a dishonest mechanic charge you a massive diagnostic fee right away. Check the thick rubber seal on the inside of your gas cap first. If that rubber is dry rotted, compressed, or cracked, go buy a replacement cap for a few bucks, clear the code, and watch your fuel economy stabilize as you stop venting your money into the open air. Since we are already standing at the gas pump in this scenario, we need to seriously address how you are actually putting the gas into the vehicle. There are two distinct types of drivers who unknowingly ruin their cars at the pump. First, you have the reserve riders. If you are the type of person who drives around for days with the low fuel light constantly glaring at you from the dash, you are slowly torturing your fuel pump to death. That electric pump sits submerged at the very bottom of the gas tank, and it relies on the surrounding liquid fuel to keep its internal motor cool and properly lubricated. When you run the car on absolute fumes, the pump sucks in pockets of air, overheats, and eventually burns its internal windings out completely. Dropping a gas tank to install a new fuel pump replacement can easily cost you $1,500 in parts and heavy labor. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, you have the top-off kings. If you are the guy who keeps rapidly clicking the pump handle after it stops automatically, just because you want to round the price up to the nearest clean dollar amount, you need to stop doing that immediately. That extra raw liquid fuel gets forced upward into the EVAP system's delicate charcoal canister, soaking the filtration pellets and completely ruining the emissions equipment. That is a major repair that can easily run anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500, depending on the make and model of your vehicle. When the gas pump clicks off the first time your tank is full, just hang up the nozzle and walk away. By the way, while you are holding that pump nozzle, you need to stop reaching for the expensive premium fuel button unless your car's manual specifically and explicitly demands it. This is arguably the biggest, most successful marketing scam in the entire automotive world. Regular, everyday commuter cars do not gain magical extra horsepower, nor do they get cleaner internal components from high-octane fuel. The word premium is incredibly misleading. High octane simply refers to a fuel's ability to resist pre-ignition, or engine knock, in very high compression or turbocharged performance engines. If you drive a standard 4-cylinder sedan, or a basic family crossover, putting premium in the tank is quite literally lighting cash on fire for zero mechanical benefit. The computer in your standard car is tuned for 87 octane. You are paying a massive price hike per gallon, purely for a psychological placebo effect. Save that heavy premium upcharge and put it toward regular, necessary maintenance items that actually keep your car running well. Speaking of essential maintenance, let us talk about your oil changes, because not all engine oil is created equal, and the type you choose heavily dictates your fuel efficiency. The manufacturer prints the recommended oil viscosity right on the plastic filler cap, but understanding what those numbers mean can save you a ton of gas. Thinner, low-viscosity synthetic oils drastically reduce the internal mechanical friction of your engine. Imagine trying to quickly stir a jar of thick, cold molasses versus stirring a glass of warm water. When your engine block is cold, thick conventional oil makes the oil pump, and all the moving internal metal components work incredibly hard to spin, wasting a massive amount of fuel energy just to overcome the thick fluid resistance. Moving to a high-quality, slightly thinner full synthetic oil, especially when the winter months hit and temperatures drop, allows the engine to spin much more freely during startups. This lack of resistance frees up usable horsepower and directly translates to significantly better miles per gallon on your daily drive. Just ensure you are staying within the safe, approved viscosity parameters listed in your specific owner's manual so you maintain proper bearing protection. And while we are heavily focused on the subject of cold starts, we absolutely need to kill the ancient, outdated myth of warming up your car in the driveway. Unless you are daily driving a classic muscle car with a mechanical carburetor from the 1970s, you do not need to sit in your driveway for 10 minutes while the engine idles and blows exhaust plumes into the winter air. Modern, computer-controlled fuel-injected vehicles adapt instantly to the ambient temperature and adjust the air-to-fuel ratio perfectly the moment you turn the key. Idling your car gets you exactly 0 miles to the gallon. In fact, gently driving the vehicle down the street is the fastest, safest way to bring the engine block, the transmission fluid, and the catalytic converters up to their proper efficient operating temperatures. When you just sit there, idling for ages, you are not just wasting expensive fuel. You are actively causing heavy carbon buildup on your intake valves because the engine is not running hot enough or fast enough to burn those deposits off efficiently. Start the car. Put your seatbelt on, wait maybe 5 seconds for the oil pressure gauge to stabilize, and just drive away normally. And if you find yourself stuck at a massive, endless freight train crossing, or you are waiting outside a grocery store for a friend for more than a minute, just reach over and shut the engine off completely. Prolonged idling is nothing but a pure waste of resources. Now, let us tackle the ultimate summer road trip argument that has divided families for generations. The great debate of running the air conditioning versus rolling the windows down to save gas. The absolute truth is that both of these options steal your fuel economy, but they do it in entirely different ways and at entirely different speeds. At lower, slower, around-town speeds, rolling the windows down is absolutely the correct choice. The aerodynamic drag at 30 miles per hour is practically non-existent, and you save the engine from the heavy parasitic power loss of physically spinning the air conditioning compressor via the serpentine belt. But once you hit the highway on ramp and get up to speed, the laws of physics completely flip the script on you. Driving at 70 miles per hour with the windows rolled completely down turns your sleek car into a giant, turbulent parachute. The massive wind resistance entering the cabin forces the engine to work incredibly hard just to maintain forward momentum. At highway speeds, roll the windows up tightly. Hit the AC button to stay comfortable. And definitely make sure you use the interior air recirculation setting so the climate system does not have to constantly work overtime to cool down the boiling hot air coming in from the outside grill. Since we are cruising on the highway in this scenario, it is highly time you start trusting and utilizing the expensive technology you already paid for when you bought the car. If you have a modern vehicle equipped with adaptive cruise control and you stubbornly refuse to use it, you are actively throwing money out the window. Human feet and human brains are notoriously terrible at maintaining a perfectly steady, efficient speed over long distances. We naturally speed up when we get distracted, and we instinctively slow down on slight inclines, constantly micro-adjusting the throttle pedal. Every single time your foot presses down on that gas pedal, The fuel injectors spray a fresh burst of gasoline into the cylinders. Adaptive cruise control uses advanced radar and camera sensors to perfectly modulate the throttle and the brakes, keeping you at the most mathematically efficient speed possible without those harsh fuel-wasting fluctuations. It completely eliminates the aggressive, unnecessary acceleration that absolutely ruins highway fuel economy. Let the vehicle's computer do the complex math. Relax your right foot, stay alert, and watch your average MPG slowly climb to numbers you never thought your car could achieve. Even if you drive an older vehicle that does not have fancy radar cruise control, you can still drive much smarter just by lifting your eyes and looking further down the road. Aggressive driving is undoubtedly the fastest, most effective way to empty your gas tank and drain your wallet. Jackrabbit launches from green lights, violently weaving through dense traffic, and slamming heavily on the brakes only gets you to your destination, maybe 20 seconds faster than the guy in the slow lane. But that driving style costs you an absolute fortune in wasted fuel, heavily worn brake pads, and warped rotors. If you see a traffic light turn red a quarter of a mile ahead of you, take your foot entirely off the gas pedal right then, and just let the vehicle coast. Let the heavy momentum of the car carry you forward for free. The longer you can keep the vehicle slowly rolling without coming to a complete dead stop, the less fuel you have to burn getting it moving again. It takes a massive amount of kinetic energy to get 2 tons of static metal rolling from a standstill. Drive smooth. Anticipate the natural flow of the traffic ahead of you. Treat your throttle pedal like there is a raw egg sitting underneath it, and you will save your fuel, prolong the life of your brakes, and keep your stress levels way down.